Respected devotees, again we are having a chance to listen to spiritual discourses. And spiritual discourses are very important in our life, because when we listen to spiritual discourses, we get the inspiration to search for spirituality, to understand the value of human life, and also it gives us the inspiration to meditate, because spiritual discourses, which we call as satsang and meditation are complementary to each other. The more we listen to satsang, the more we get the inspiration to meditate, and the more we meditate, more we enjoy and understand satsang. So both of these are complementary to each other. Now, what we have to do in human life? First we have to understand the importance of human life. If you compare our human life, if you compare with other animals, other species, we find a big difference. Human body is called the crown of creation. In the evolution theory also, when there was slowly evolution from animals and finally human beings was created, it's the ultimate creation of God. And the capacity, the talent, the brain power, everything is unique in human body. But how we utilize our intellect depends upon us. We can be negative, we can be positive. I heard a story. A mouse was with a sage, and he used to be there. So the sage was very kind on that mouse, and the cat was used to give problem to the mouse, and mouse used to run away when the cat comes. So the mouse requested to the sage that if I become cat, nobody will give me problem, and I can with you all the time. Out of compassion, out of kindness, the sage made him, with his spiritual power, he made him cat. After some time, a dog started chasing the cat. Again there was a problem, so the sage transformed that cat into a dog. And because the sage used to live in forest, sometimes the dog used to go out, and a lion used to try to hunt him, to kill him. So again there was a problem, and the dog requested sage, and out of kindness, out of compassion, out of love, the sage made him lion. So now he was the king of forest. He need not be afraid of anything in the forest. He can, without any fear, he can wander all over the forest, and sage made him king of the forest. But what happened when he became lion, and one day when he was hungry, he thought, the sage is before me, why should not I eat the sage? Now I become lion. Now what can I do? What is the problem for me? And he tried to attack the sage. When the sage saw that now this lion is about to attack me, again from his power, it turned him into a mouse again. And the lion again became a mouse. So the story is simple, but it has a deep meaning. It has a deep meaning. When we enter into spirituality and are connected with a spiritual master, out of compassion or out of love, out of our devotion, whatever we say, he starts giving us powers slowly, and we become more and more affluent in spirituality. Oral powers, vocabulary powers, oratory powers, so many qualities start manifesting in us, and slowly we become better. or God out of compassion gives us more intellect. We are sharper than others. But what we do when we start misusing that intellect, when we develop ego that I am everything, and forget the grace of the Master, forget the grace of the Almighty, then what happens? Just like the mouse was turned into lion but again remade into mouse. Similar happens with us. So in spirituality stage, we have to be very, very careful our ego. And I feel this is the greatest problem in our human life, in devotion, in spirituality. Ego is such a factor, ego is such a virus in the mind. Of course, they say there are 5 types of viruses: lust, ego, greed, anger. So many viruses are there, but out of these, what I feel, the most subtle and the most influential is the ego one. If I have lust, I can feel that I have lust in me. If I have anger, I can feel that there is anger in me. If I am greedy, I can know that I am greedy. So the other 4 viruses we can understand, we can feel that I have these viruses with me. But ego is such a subtle virus. Even if we have ego, we don't feel that I have ego within me. And that's why, because of that ego, the blessings, the grace that should come to us is retarded, stopped. It comes only in small limits. The full grace doesn't come on me, doesn't come on us because of our ego. Maharaji explained sometime about grace. He says, suppose water is pouring, there is raining. So that rainwater doesn't accumulate on the hilltop. It goes away from there, and where there is a pit, underground place, there the water stays. Similarly, the grace of the Master, the grace of the Almighty, it doesn't stay on egoistic persons. But the one who is humble, the grace is there. So Nanak said very nicely, he said, नानक नन्ही रही हो जैसे नन्ही धूप और घास सब कट गए धूप खूब की खूब. He says, be like the grass. It's always humble. Don't try to become a tree, because when the cyclone comes, the tree fell down. All the trees fall down. So humbleness is the greatest and the most essential quality that a spiritual person should have. And this is the problem, because when the Master or the Almighty, because I don't feel a difference between the Master and the Almighty, Spirituality says that a living Master is a potential manifestation of that God, which is in kinetic form. So it's just a difference of kinetic energy and potential energy. When that kinetic energy takes a potential form, we call him the living Master, the spiritual Master, the enlightened spiritual Master, not the Master. We find many in the world, who have become Master but they are not enlightened. Actually, an enlightened person he should be called a spiritual Master, because he has the power to impart spirituality. When I talk to many people about the third eye, they say it takes many years to open the third eye. When I say that it takes minutes, not even a minute to open the third eye, they are surprised. They don't believe in the beginning. How is it possible? Because they've come across with those people, those so-called spiritual masters, who are not enlightened, and they don't have the potential to open the third eye. That's what they say, to to avoid to save themselves, because otherwise they will be exposed that they are not enlightened. So to avoid that, what they do, they say, oh, third eye opening is a very, very complex thing. It takes many years. You have to do this and that, and after doing so much things, then only the third eye can be opened. And if the third eye is open, it's everything. So it's the last, ultimate. Whereas the fact is that after opening the third eye, our meditation starts. It is the beginning, not the end. But they have taught like that because those masters, so-called masters, they, to avoid their own exposure, they just mislead the disciple, mislead the follower. Whereas when we meet the true spiritual master, it doesn't take even a minute to open the third eye. We have the practical example of Lord Krishna. In the battlefield of Mahabharata, when Arjuna was despondent, and when during that spiritual discourse, he finally requests Lord Krishna that, Master, can I experience your metaphysical form? Lord Krishna says, not with these eyes, because that is a very, very subtle form. So you need a microscopic, divine microscopic eye for that. And I open your third eye, and with that you see my metaphysical form. And when you open the third eye, Krishna opened the third eye of Arjuna, and then Arjuna saw a light even brighter than 1,000 suns. That was the experience he had after opening the third eye. But let's feel, let us think, how much time did Lord Krishna take to open the third eye? It was in the battlefield. So it didn't take 1 day, 2 days, or 1 week there. You must have immediately opened the third eye. And this is possible. If you take the example of Swami Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Vivekananda. When Vivekananda went to Ramakrishna and he asked, have you seen God? People say you imagine God. People say you feel God. But spirituality says, no, you can see God. As you see the other things, similarly you can see God within you. But for that you need the third eye. To see the light of God, you need the third eye. So Vivekananda asked Ramakrishna Paramahansa, have you seen God? Ramakrishna said, yes, I have seen so near that even you are far from me. I have experienced it within myself. Vivekananda says, can you show me also? Yes, he said. And he immediately gave that experience. It didn't take time. So actually for opening the third eye, it doesn't take time, provided we meet an enlightened spiritual master. I have to use the word enlightened because nowadays there are thousands and thousands of spiritual masters, so-called spiritual masters. And they all claim to be spiritual masters. The problem is there. Whereas in previous times, everybody didn't call himself a spiritual master. There used to be a decision that who is the spiritual master of the time. Big congregations were done. In India, congregation is done, a very big congregation. It's called Kumbh Mela. Kumbh means pitcher, But in that congregation, all the saints, all the spiritual people of the world used to gather there. And there was decided who is this enlightened spiritual master of the time. Now it's all just rituals and outer dominate. But actually, the living spiritual master is always a unique one. He has the capacity to open the third eye, and it doesn't take him time to open the third eye. So, friends, when we get such a master, the master not only opens the third eye, he has the potential to make us like him. There is an example of which is called Bhringi. That Bhringi wasp, he doesn't, reproduce like we make children and all that. what he does, he catches an insect, make him unconscious and put him in a bobby, in a cocoon, and makes a sound, a buzzing sound. And with that buzzing sound, he transforms that insect into a Bhringi wasp. It's a miraculous thing. Bhringi wasp makes another insect a Bhringi wasp just by the sound of that vibration. Such a miraculous transformation comes through. So, spirituality says the spiritual master is just like the real enlightened spiritual master is like a Bhringi wasp. He can make his disciple equal to him, like him, provided the disciple doesn't have ego. The master wants to make the disciple like him, make him fully powerful, enlightened, everything he wants to give. He's not selfish, Yeah, not like a king. A king never wants other to become a king. A minister will always think, a prime minister or president will think, they'll let me remain president. He will not try to make the other one king or president. But the spiritual master, the enlightened master, he always wants to make other disciples like him, equal to him, provided the disciple is egoless. So ego is a big factor in our life, and this is the most subtle virus in. Even if we have the virus, we can't understand that I have virus. But to understand virus, the ego virus, actually when we go near to the spiritual master, there we come to know the ego factor. Slowly we understand the ego factor within us. Humbleness and ego factor are such humbleness we can understand, but I have ego within me, it's very difficult to understand. And the one who understands ego and avoids ego, saves himself from ego, the grace of Master pour like anything on him. Master gives him all his powers, because if there is ego and Master gives the power, what will happen? We read the history of Ravana during the period of Lord Rama. Ravana meditated, and God gave him so much power that he controlled all the gods. All the gods were under him, under his control. And after gaining that much power, he becomes so egoistic that Lord has to incarnate himself to finish him. That's much trouble he has to take, because he became more powerful. So the Almighty and the spiritual master always take care that no much power should be given to an egoistic person, because he can divert intelligence, the power to a negative approach. So we should be egoless, and we should try to find out the real spiritual master. People say there are many spiritual masters. We can go to anyone. But friends, in my experience, this is not the case. It says lions are rare, rubies are rare. Not you find in lot and quantities, Similarly, the enlightened spiritual masters are rare. You will not find a group of spiritual masters, a bunch of spiritual masters. Spiritual masters are rare. And the test of the spiritual master is that he can give you practical experience of that light of God. Open your third eye, and it doesn't take him even a minute to do that, because he has the potential, he has the power to impart that experience. And then we proceed. That is the gate to spirituality. From there, our spiritual progress begins. Friends, opening the third eye is not the end. We got a target to connect the mind, and then practice we have to do. Mind will go away, bring it back, put on the third eye, concentrate on the light, again because it has the habit of going out, again bring it back, and slowly when the mind will start staying there, then our spiritual progress will develop and the evolution will be there, and one day we can achieve total saturation. So the main is to divert the mind from the worldly things to that light. But unless we have seen that light, unless we have experienced that light, where will concentrate our mind? I have talked to many people. Some people say, oh, we just sit silently, close our eyes and try to concentrate on the darkness. It's ridiculous, friends. Suppose you go to a picture hall, picture doesn't start and you are asked to just sit there and see the picture. Only the screen, nothing coming, no light, is just dark. For how much time will you sit there? You will say it's boring. But once the picture starts, you enjoy also the picture and you stay in that hall for 2 hours, 3 hours. Because you are seeing something. You've got something to experience there. Similar is the case within us also. If we just close the eyes, sit and just try to concentrate on the dark, that is not the proper way. We have to get our third eye open, see that light, and then when we meditate on that, connect our mind to that light, then the mind can connect with that, remain there for hours together. And spiritual evolution starts there. In Hindu scriptures, one of the most famous mantra is the Gayatri mantra. And people utter this Gayatri mantra. Most of the religious people, so-called spiritual people, they say this is the most effective and the most renowned mantra, Gayatri mantra. But if you go deeper into the meaning of Gayatri mantra, this Gayatri mantra doesn't say that you just utter the Gayatri mantra. Actually it says to experience the Gayatri mantra. If we go deeper into scriptures, in the Vedas it is said that all the mantras in the Vedas, the sage who uttered that mantra, he first experienced the mantra, then he uttered the mantra. So the mantra of Gayatri mantra was uttered spoken by Vishwamitra sage. When we experienced the light within him and meditated on that light, then he spoke, Bhargo devasya dhimai dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Oh God, I am meditating on your light. Let my mind go towards you and have peace and salvation. That he prayed after visualizing that light. Without visualizing, he didn't speak that. And if we think that just by speaking Gayatri mantra we will have enlightenment, we will have salvation, friends, we are missing here. Because the word, the mantra Bhargo devasya dhimai means I am meditating on your light. But if I have not seen light, how can I meditate on light? And how I shall get the result? Let's take the example. Suppose I am thirsty and I start uttering a mantra. I am drinking water, let my thirst be quenched. I am drinking water, let my thirst be quenched. By uttering this mantra, shall my thirst will be anytime be quenched? Will say no. What you are saying, you have to do that. Similar is the case with Gayatri mantra. What we are speaking that, oh God, I am meditating on your light. We have to visualize the light, meditate on that light, and then He will give us peace and salvation. So this is the mistake that we are committing, because we are taught like that. And the people who taught us, they just to avoid themselves being exposed that they are not enlightened, they asked us to utter this Gayatri mantra. In the Hindu scriptures, Hindus, there is a ritual which he perform around the age of 10 or 12. and they call it Janu Sanskar and Upanayan Sanskar. The word Upanayan means opening the third eye. Actually, what was the reality, friends? In the mother's womb, our third eye was opened, irrespective of caste, creed, religion or nationality. And we meditated on that light. When we came out, these external eyes were also opened, and we didn't understand the importance of the third eye and the internal light. We started concentrating, so to say, on the external light and more using the external eyes. So, because of not using the third eye, slowly it became dormant. And the third eye, so to say, in simple language, it was closed. So, our ancestor knew this, that this third eye is very important and the child should meditate on the third light. But because his logical brain is not developed, so they can't make him understand the difference between the inner light and the outer light. But when he grows up and attains the age of 10, 12 like that, then his logical brain is developed, and so to make him experience the third eye and again meditate on that light of God, which he meditated in the mother's womb, that ritual was performed, which was called a Upanayan Sanskaram, means opening the third eye. And the master, the priest who used to perform that ritual, he used to be an enlightened spiritual master. He used to be an enlightened person. And at that moment, the third eye of the disciple of that person was opened. And then he was taught Gayatri Mantra, that you meditate also and pray God before starting. God, now I am going to meditate on your light. Let me have peace and salvation. That prayer mantra was attached to the experience. But afterwards, what happened? The one who used to initiate at the time of that ritual, they were not enlightened. So they couldn't say that, oh, I am not enlightened, so I can't open your third eye. They twisted it and said, oh, just you utter this Gayatri Mantra, it is sufficient. Whereas at the time of that ritual, third eye was to be opened. So in this way, the truth got lost. And when the truth is lost, some incarnation comes, some spiritual master comes, Buddha came, Christ came, Muhammad came, Nanaka came, Lord Rama came, Krishna came, Kabir came. In this way, a series of spiritual masters come, and they are in every era. A living spiritual master is always in the world. Friends, I am emphasizing on this. I am not saying that this person is a spiritual master, that you have to search. Of course, I have experienced the light by the grace of the spiritual master. But what people have the mentality, if you say he is a spiritual master, they will object. Oh, how are you saying that he is the spiritual master? That's why I am just saying, you search for the spiritual master, the enlightened spiritual master. The test is, he can open the third eye within seconds. And he can give you that experience, that metaphysical experience, which Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna, which Buddha gave to Ananda, which Lord Christ gave to his disciples. And that experience cannot be had by past masters. It can only be had by a present living master. And when we are connected to the master, slowly his grace comes of us. Of course, people talk about grace, but actually grace means, what is actually grace is, Maharaji has explained it in a very beautiful way. Grace means 95% perspiration, 5% inspiration. It means that if you do that much, 95% you perform to complete that job, to make you successful in that work, 5% grace comes up. But you have done nothing, you are without karma, sitting idle, and in the hope that the grace will come, it will never come. The one who performs, works, when he reaches 95% of the performance, then 5% comes as grace, it makes him 100%. Like, suppose someone is studying, and while studying, he's 1-2 marks short of pass marks. The teacher, out of compassion, will add 1 or 2 grace marks and make him pass. But if he has not written anything, and if he thinks that teacher will give him full grace marks and make him pass, it doesn't happen. So friends, the time is up, and let's avoid ego, proceed further in spirituality, and when the grace of Master will flow within us, we will be able to work more and more, propagate more and more about the spiritual knowledge. And Guru Nanak says, आप जपे औरों को जपावे, नानक निश्चय मुक्ति पावे. That a devotee should meditate himself on the holy name and should propagate the spirituality of holy name, and then only he will be capable, he will be eligible for salvation. So let's meditate on the holy name, meditate on the divine light of God through the third eye, and propagate this metaphysical knowledge. And today is 13th episode, and so 13 is a very good figure in spirituality. Of course, some countries, some Western people, they avoid number 13. They think it's an unlucky number. But in spirituality, 13 is the luckiest number. So today our episode is also 13, and we are ending because after 13 there is no number in spirituality. So this episode of Men Know Thyself will end today, and from tomorrow a different topic will start, a different series will start. Let's see what's going to happen. Of course, we'll be meeting at the same time with a different version and a different topic. So thanks everybody, and let's enjoy spirituality and spiritual discourses.